Hi everyone, it's Lisa. Welcome back to my channel. Today I want to share with you a new product from the Stamps of Life. These are the add-on sets for the Slimline Card Die, which I showed you in another video. That Slimline card, just a refresher, it comes with the Slimline card die set that you can actually make a Slimline card. So remember, it comes with this die that you can die cut your cardstock, that you can make a Slimline card. It also comes with some layering dies. It also comes with the words happy birthday and some butterflies, but you can look over at that video if you want to see all that's included in that set. I will link it down below. But in the meantime, I want to show you these add-on words that you can purchase for your Slimline cards. Now, these don't necessarily have to be for a Slimline card. You can use these on your regular A2 size cards as well. But they are all of these words. There's 4 word dies. So you have pray, love, hello, and thanks. And they each come with the word as well as with the shadow. So you can see here how I have the shadow cut out of the white and I have the word cut out of the red. And when you're die cutting these, you want to make sure you put your double-sided adhesive on the back of the word die, because these are very intricate and you can see how thin these lines are, and it's much easier to adhere if you have your double-sided adhesive on the back of those cardstock sheets. So you can see the words, how pretty they are. They're so nice, and they have these long lines in front of them and then at the end of them, which makes them super cool. So you can actually, and if you didn't like those lines, you can actually just snip it off if you needed to shorten it for whatever type of cards you're making. So if it was too long, and I've done this before, you can just snip off with scissors so you didn't have that long line extending. It also comes with some more butterflies. The Slimline Card Base die set did come with some butterflies as well, and there's a couple more. So you have your shadow as well as your butterfly die. There's a larger one and a smaller one, and it looks like this one, it cuts out so you can see the shadow and you can also see the outline of the butterfly. Now, one thing about these butterflies is that when you die cut them, it also die cuts the middle. So if you wanted to die cut the middle in a different color and then put that back in there, so these will fit right back in there, you can do that and just make a multicolored butterfly, and that would be really pretty as well. So I'm going to go ahead and make a card with using this set.
For this card, I'm going to be making a Slimline card, and I'm going to be using the Cookie for Birthday stamp set, and I stamped out the image of Cookie, as well as I'm using the Hats for Critters stamp set, which is a smaller version of Cookie, and I'm going to be using both of these stamped images on my card. Now, for those of you that are maybe new to the Stamps of Life, you might be wondering, Cookie? Well, that's the name of Stephanie Bernard's dog, Cookie, and she named this stamp set after her dog. So that's why I called it Cookie. So I stamped these images with my Spectrum Noir alcohol proof ink in the Noir black color, and I stamped it onto my Spectrum Noir Ultra Smooth cardstock, which is what I use for alcohol marker coloring. And I did slow this video down to real time. I'm not going to have the whole thing slowed down, but I just wanted to slow a little bit of it down. You can see that I started in with my C6, which is my darkest gray color. It's in the cool gray family, and when I'm coloring animals, I like to use a flicking technique instead of going in circles, just to kind of make the fur look a little bit more realistic. So I started with my C6, which is my darkest cool gray color that I'm using for this stamped image, and I started with the sides of the stamped image and came in from the actual side of the stamp and used my marker and making a flicking motion by just holding the marker straight up and starting at the bottom of this image and then just flicking upward. And then I'm coming in with my next lightest color, which is the C4. I just went over a little bit of that C6 and extending a little bit beyond, and you can see that I'm just kind of flicking out from the edges, which is just holding my marker straight up and just using the point of my marker just to start at the bottom, and then, or I should say at the edge of the image and then just flicking up. So depending on which way you kind of have your paper turned, that's the way that you're flicking, whether it be up or down. And I will do that throughout this image where all of the C6 appears. So come in where the C6 left off, and then just flicking up or down depending on which way you're looking at your image with your C4. So next I come in with my next lightest shade, which is the C2, and I come in where the C4 left off, and I start with the C4 and then flick away from that. So I do that all around. So start with this where the C4 left off and flick either up or down depending on which side you are working on. Then I come in with my C1 color and start where the C2 left off and flick a little bit further until eventually I get to the middle of the dog's body. And so you can see how using that flicking motion will give a little bit of texture and it will look a little bit more realistic when it comes to an animal's fur. So I'm going to go ahead and speed this up and play this to music, and if you want to watch the rest of the coloring, go ahead. Otherwise you can fast forward until you get to the actual card. And one more thing I want to add is that when I colored the small dog, it's the same process. So I did not show the coloring of the small dog, only the larger one. I'm starting out with a piece of Bristol Smooth cardstock, and unfortunately I don't have a size to give you. You just need a piece that's large enough for making a grass border, and I inked it up with some kiwi ink. If you didn't want to do the ink blending, you could just take a piece of green cardstock, and I'm using my Bristol Smooth cardstock just because it gives it a softer look than if I use just regular cardstock. And I'm just using my grass die from the border set just to cut a grassy border, and I will be doing this twice to create 2 grass border die cuts. Now I'm using some green apple ink just to add some darker green to this grass, just to give it a little bit more texture and dimension. Now I'm going to set that grassy border aside, and I'm coming in with my card layer, which I die cut a piece of Bristol Smooth cardstock out of the Slimline Card Layer die, and I'm ink blending this with some pink inks. I'm using raspberry, candy, and bubble gum, and you've seen me do this process in the past where I create a cloud background, and I took my cloud border die from the Borders die set, and I die cut that out of just some powdered sugar cardstock, some white cardstock. It really doesn't matter what color it is, and using this as a stencil. And you can see that I'm just layering up these colors. So I started with the raspberry at the top, and then I come in with my candy on the next layer, and then the next layer after that is the bubble gum, and I continue to repeat that process all the way down this cardstock layer. And this card is going to be a vertical slimline card, so that's why you see the clouds going vertically. So you can see it's a longer card rather than the horizontal long card. So again, you start with the raspberry, which is what you see here. Just ink that up using your cloud as your stencil. Come in with your candy on the next row. And then once you have your candy down, you're going to come in on the next row with your bubble gum. Here you see me just filling in some of the spaces, or blending in some of the harsh spaces with the ink. So here's where I'm coming in with my bubble gum, and then just repeat that process all the way down. Now I'm coming in with my grass die cut, and you'll see that I only put glue on the part of it because I don't need the whole thing. And I'm just adding some glue there and trimming off the excess border. And you can see that that other piece was not long enough to fit, so that's why you're going to actually need 2 borders created, because that extra piece that I had cut previously was not long enough. So here I die cut and colored up another grass border die, because I'm going to layer these grass die cuts at the bottom of this card panel. I just marked there with a pencil where I wanted this grass border to go, and I'm putting some glue on the back. Notice that I did not glue all the way to the top. Now that first grass border die is glued all the way down. That second grass border die is not glued all the way down, because I wanted to be able to put the dog stamp within that grass, so you can create some layers there and have it look like the dog is sitting there with inside the grass. So here I'm just trimming off the excess. I'm also using these dotted heart dies, and I die cut 2 hearts. The green pattern paper is from the Wishes paper pad, and then you can see there in the background I have some pink heart pattern paper, and that's from the Oh Joy paper pad. And I'm just adding some ink, so I have some candy ink on the pink one and some kiwi ink on the edges of the green one, and I'm just layering those hearts up. And that's going to be like a big balloon there in the sky. So you can see that I'm going to layer those up, put those at the top of that card panel. I am going to use the word love from the sentiment words for the Slimline add-on words, and that's going to go in the middle of those balloons. So here I'm just adding that card layer to my card base and just kind of setting everything up where I want everything to go. And I'm going to have some twine for the balloon, extending from that balloon to the small dog stamp. So again, just positioning everything where I want it, going ahead and adding the word love to the heart. And then I'm just going to take that twine, and I'm putting a little glue dot there, which you don't really need to use a glue dot if you don't have that. You can also use just some double-sided tape just to adhere that down, just so that it stays there behind that heart. So I just add a few pieces of double-sided tape, peel those up, And then I'm going to put some glue on this heart and add it down to this card panel. And then I am going to, after I glue that down, I'm going to take that string and it's going to extend down to the small dog stamp. I wanted to make sure that that string looks like it's kind of floating. I didn't want it to be pulled tightly. So now I'm just going to add some glue to the back of the dogs, stick the big dog between the layers of grass, and then that small dog is going to be popped up on some foam. It's some double-sided adhesive foam, so I'm going to peel that tape back and pop that dog right there in front of that twine. Now I'm going to take this stamp set. It's from the Love Statement set, and I'm going to use the stamps You More, and I'm going to ink that up with some raspberry ink and stamp that right in the middle of that card panel. And here is another dotted heart, and I decided to add a heart sticker to the middle of that heart just to add some dimension there. And then I'm just adding a little piece of glue on that string just to make sure that string stays down and in place on the front of my card. Next, I am taking another piece. This is actually the leftover piece of the grass paper that I had, and I'm using these grass dies that I had from the Windmill die set when the Windmill class kit was here. And I just die cut those little pieces of grass, and then I put some green apple ink on the edges, just as it's a darker green ink just to add some dimension, and added some of those grass layers to the grassy area of my card. I just think that adds some more dimension rather than having that grass completely flat. And that will complete this card. So open it up, says Love You More. So if you have any questions or comments, please let me know. Be sure to subscribe for more card making tutorials from me. Bye bye everyone.